No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show, good evening to you and welcome to the best game of the year. As the Nathan is saying, are you not entertained? The best in the West versus the best in the East. And of course, the game necessitated some extra time because, of course, that's what fans demanded. Of course, as it wouldn't have been a game that required additional overtime, 20-minute overtimes. We're not yet in the playoffs, but that seemed like a playoff game from both the Winnipeg Jets and the Washington Capitals. The Capitals come in as the best team in the overall. The Jets, of course, the second best team. And with the single point is the Jets were able to clinch and become the first team in the Western Conference to clinch a playoff spot. So the Jets are into the playoffs. It was a foregone conclusion. We knew that, but they've officially clinched. The whiteout is back for the 24-25 season. And the Jets have now defeated the Washington Capitals twice in overtime. So, Mr. Ginsburg, what is your assessment of that entertaining hockey game?
Yeah, what's up, Dave? Good evening to everybody who's joining us and live and going to be listening on the podcast later. This really did live up to the hype, right? And, we've been treated to a couple of big boy games in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the Jets came up big with the 4-0 win over the Stars. What was that, about a week and a half ago now, Dave? At this point, it was on Friday night. We did the show at City Place, but I kind of feel like everybody left Canada Life Center happy, right? If you're a Capitals fan, the Caps got a point. You saw Alex Ovechkin score goal 889, right? And then if you're a Jets fan, obviously the Jets get the clean 2 points with the big Ehlers goal in overtime, right? So yeah, the Jets are still a point behind the Capitals. But the point is that the Jets got the extra point. And I thought that game deserved overtime because it was a very close game. And I didn't like the second period for the Jets at all. We'll get into that. They weren't generating enough offense. I thought they were on their heels too much. But they ended up coming out of that second period with a 2-1 lead off of a Mason Appleton goal. I guess that's what's happening around here, right, Dave? Guys are breaking their goal scoring slumps. First it was Nino Niederreiter. Yeah. And now it's Mason Appleton, and it was a beautiful shot. It seemed like everybody was going top corner tonight, which you love to see. But hard-fought game, lots of physicality. You obviously saw Colin Miller and Andrew Mangiapane in the first period having one of the more animated in penalty box discussions that we've seen. And I don't think that they were talking about their social media followings, Dave. No. I think they were talking about something else. So you love the physicality. Tom Wilson was obviously all over the ice.
Oh, is he good, by the way? I know fans don't like him. You don't like him if he's not on your team. If he's on your team, you love that guy.
Unbelievable player. And you can see why a lot of fans, a lot of Hockey Canada fans were screaming for him to be included on the Four Nations tournament. And I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the Olympic team. Obviously, there's a lot of talented players, Dave, but he's effective. And not only is he a guy that throws his weight around, this is a talented player. And I think we got the one and only Drew Mandel coming in right now. What's up, Drew?
Good evening, everybody. Apologies for being a couple minutes late to the post-game show. I was at the game with my daughter, so I had to get home. Apologies to those pedestrians, but they shouldn't have been walking on the sidewalk. That's for cars to be driving on, not for pedestrians to be walking
Drew,
on.
You look a little disheveled, like your shirt's unzipped there. You look a little sweaty. Like
Drew, let's put it this way, everyone. Drew was not missing. The Jets clinching, beating the Washington Capitals, signature game, knows the chat is going to be bumping, and there was no way Drew Mandel was missing this one.
Hey, you know what? My daughter's at the age where she's old enough that she can put herself to bed, and I said to her, okay, if we're going to
drive herself home.
And drive herself home too. Exactly right. If you're going to go to the game, you're going to have to do bedtime, by yourself, and I'll jump on to the post-game show. Hell of a hockey game. I mean, I know that you guys had the vantage point, Dave, where you were up in the press box, and Ezzy, you were obviously in the home watching, and we were at the game. Just, again, there's only so many games of the 82 that are sort of live up to the hype or exciting, or, you circle on the calendar. And, at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure that anyone necessarily would have expected this one to be a game like that. But as the season has progressed and as these two teams have clearly established themselves as the best two teams in the league, it was like we saw in Washington, however many weeks ago that was, a back and forth game, a close game, an overtime game, and just the same tonight. Washington getting the late equalizer, controlling the first, minute plus of the overtime, and then the Jets getting the goal, that great shot by Nikolai Ehlers to get the victory. Just a lot of fun in the arena tonight, gentlemen. Sorry for interrupting whatever the flow of your conversation was at that point.
No, Drew, you're not interrupting. This is your show, man. So you can
show.
You can do well. Yeah, it's our show, but you're never interrupting when you're coming on, right? I mean, you're obviously a little bit late, but that's all good. You were at the game, as you mentioned, and
you're bringing flavor. You're bringing us some of that flavor. I mean, you saw that guy the biggest question I think that everybody who follows you on social media, Drew, wants to know is, did that man find a wife?
I don't know if he found a wife. I'm not entirely sure. Somebody tweeted at me, made a good point. I think it was our buddy Scott. Scott Newman, our buddy, said that's definitely got to be a fantasy football bet gone wrong or something like that, where you would carry a sign. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, just in front of me at the game, there was a guy carrying a sign saying, "Are you my next wife?" And then he gave his phone number, or presumably somebody's phone number. So if you're interested in becoming this man's wife, 807-738-1443, or you can check it out on my social media.
Is that a Manitoba number?
No, that's not a Manitoba number, but 807 is, I believe, Northwestern Ontario, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not an area code expert, admittedly, but I believe it's somewhere in and around the Northwestern Ontario area. But that was right in front of me. So again, good vibe in that building. And Dave, you're a vibes guy. You always sort of give that temperature check about what's happening within the confines of the building. This was one of those games where the vibes were good. There was a level of excitement. You could feel it. I saw somebody mention it on social media, one of our reporter friends, I can't remember exactly who, but night and day comparing this atmosphere to that of Sunday afternoon snoozer against the Buffalo Sabres, and no real surprise there whatsoever in terms of the excitement level. And then when the game went into overtime, and they put, just very subtly, they put it up on the scoreboard. They didn't make a big pronouncement about it. They didn't make a big spectacle about it. They just sort of put up on the scoreboard, clinched, and here comes the whiteout or something along those lines. And then the crowd realized what was happening, and they got up off their feet before the overtime began. So again, real fun atmosphere, real fun game in downtown Winnipeg tonight. And for the Winnipeg Jets perspective, an important win. Because if they don't get the 2 points in tonight's game, and it doesn't matter that it's not a clean 2 points, but if they don't get these 2 points, if they don't succeed tonight, if they lose in regulation, Dallas by Friday night could be 2 points behind the Winnipeg Jets. Yep. Dallas plays the two Alberta teams Wednesday, Thursday. So we know just how close Dallas could have been to being behind the Jets. And I do think that there's a hell of a difference between, let's say if the Jets had it, now the Jets have that 8-point cushion still. It still feels like a sizable enough cushion. It's not a 6-point cushion, right, with Dallas playing 2 games in the next 2 nights where they can make it that 2-point lead. So big win for the Winnipeg Jets. Fun night downtown Winnipeg. We're waiting for head coach Scott Arneil in the Matt Frost Media Center. As soon as he is here for that, we will bring him to you live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Right. And obviously, guys, we got to talk about, even though we're going to get interrupted because Scott Arneil is going to come up momentarily, we have to talk about the new look lines, right? Like Alex Iafallo obviously moves up to the top line, right, Dave, in Gabe Vilardi's absence. And then you had Nikolai Ehlers playing with Lowry and Appleton, who are usually with Niederreiter, and then Nemestikov and Perfetti, who are normally together, were playing with Niederreiter. And then you obviously had Kupari coming in on the fourth line. And you saw production from that line instantly, right? The Scheifele line is involved in the first goal. It looked like Alex Iafallo might have been credited for the Josh Morrissey goal, right? But it went off of the Capitals defenseman. So I think Scott Arneil's coming up here, Drew.
Oh, yes, he is.
Is there a part of you thinking, Nick, get off the ice as the play goes the other way? Because he had been out there for a while, but him staying out there ended up being, you guys get rewarded for it.
Yeah, it was that, but they also, Washington had 4 guys on the ice. I don't know if you saw it, but so if you missed the net and it went around, we were probably going to get a power play because they had 4 guys. So I guess he had a little bit in the tank left over and just burned down. What a great shot. So great to see.
Yeah, and a great pass, too, by Dylan Semberg. Again, a guy we talked to a few games ago who hadn't seen a lot of overtime, but he looks pretty comfortable out there at 3-on-3.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of on the fly learning how to do it. We got him in there with them getting possession of the puck, but those guys did a good job keeping it to the outside. And finally you just wait for your opportunity to get that puck back. And I like the way, Sammy Fire recognized it, that they were where they were at, and just a great way to end that great game.
Yeah, and you've had wins by much larger margins, but I have to think this is right up there in terms of games you've loved, just quality of opponent and the way the game played out. It felt kind of like a playoff game, right?
That was a heavyweight battle right there. That really was. Both teams, even though one's from the east, one's from the west, it's like we play each other 8 times a year. There was a lot of trash talk going on. There were some big hits. There was a lot happening, and I think that both teams recognize that. You want to be number one, and it was a great game. I just thought punch counter punch kind of going on all night.
You mentioned how you put Alex Iafallo with Scheifele and Carr to get a bit of meat and potatoes with them. In putting Ehlers with Lowry and Appleton, what were you trying to do there, and how do you think it went tonight?
Like I said this morning, it had a little bit to do with their lineup. I knew I wanted to go with Lowry and Apple against Wilson. And Dubois, some big bodies. And I just felt I don't think we had anybody that was going to line up against Tom Wilson and be able to, I just thought that maybe Fly would be the guy. I thought that maybe that's a situation at speed against, Tom is a great player. And it just, I just, having the opportunity to make them defend and play in their end, I thought we did that with that line. They had some real good zone time, and they kept the Dubois line down in their end of the rink, and that goes a long way. And Fly, being a puck possession guy that he is, kind of helps drive that a little bit. And then the other side too, with like Vladdy's line and Fetz, Nino, again, they did a great job themselves. Whether they were against Strome or whoever they were against, did a great job of doing what they needed to do as a line. I thought Nino did a great job of getting to the net and playing heavy as well.
Have you learned anything new from, Nikolai Ehlers? And there was a game against Colorado when he was with Adam Lowry, and then a game like tonight. It just seems like he's able to, adapt and perform in different roles like tonight as well.
Yeah, he recognizes who he's playing with. Guys with that kind of skill, if you're playing with maybe a couple other top-end skill guys, you're going to be, do some other things. You're playing against 2 guys like Apple and Lau that are going to, probably dump it in and go get it, and then he is the support off of that. And, he knows to get to holes, to get to spots when he's playing with those kind of guys. I think that he just, he's a veteran player. He's been around a while and knows how to play in a lot of situations.
You talked about Cole Perfetti there, and we've talked all year about his evolution. In a heavyweight battle like tonight, it really seemed like the details of his game shined through. What did you see from him?
Yeah, he's not the biggest body. I think he had a great hit there in the third period, right in center ice there. He had the puck a lot. I liked the way he held onto it. A couple times he drove. He came out of the corners, took it to the front of the net. Those are great things. Those are all the things that we've talked about, him kind of evolving as a player. And that's the stuff in the playoffs that you have to do. You have to go into those greasy areas, and I thought he did. He's been really good at that.
And how do you guys kind of emotionally balance? You clinch a playoff spot, but overtime hasn't even started yet, and they play the big thing. The crowd is on their feet. How do you kind of focus on the task at hand despite clinching?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be appreciative of what we've done, obviously. And at the start of the year, our first goal, we have a few goals, but our first goal was to eliminate 8 teams, and we did that, obviously, after 60 minutes. So, you have to applaud our players for, doing that, and would have liked to have done it against Buffalo, but at the same time, and to win the game and get that extra point is just sort of the cream on the top.
Scott, how significant was your club's response in getting this result against this opponent, coming after what you described on Sunday as the ultimate trap game?
Yeah, I don't think it was very hard to fire the guys up for this one. They knew who was coming into town. We had a great game down in Washington against some, obviously this one was right up there as one of the best. We saw I've seen our response all year long when we've been challenged like this against real good hockey teams, and we've responded in the right way. And just we always talk about put the last one behind us, move on to the next one. And if we weren't ready tonight, we would have got run over. And I just thought we did a fantastic job.
There was so much focus on Ovi when you
Who?
when you saw him get that tying goal. Kind of what's going through your mind?
He came by the bench and gave me the biggest smirk. So I'm glad he got the goal in the sense, or getting closer to his goal. Excuse me, I'm not glad he got the goal. I'm glad he's getting close to whatever that number is. At the end of the day, that's him. It doesn't take much. The puck is on his stick, off his stick. I thought we did a really good job for most of the game of trying to limit him. A lot of chances. He had a few on the power play, but I thought we did a really good job of staying over top of him. He doesn't need much time or space, and at the end of the day, we got the 2 points. It is what it is. I was kind of hoping that we could finish that one off in a 2-1 game, but at the end of the day, we did a pretty good job on him.
Did you get a chance to give him a smirk at the end of the game?
I didn't get to see him. He was farther down the bench, so I might see him later.
Scott, it was a game where the general theme was people didn't give an inch, right? I mean, Mangiapane goes off after Miller, and there's so many different moments. Even Cole Perfetti went back at Matty Roy there when he was getting those cross checks. Why is it so important when the two best teams in the NHL play each other that these guys don't give that inch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that we have a rematch. That'd be really nice. But at the end of the day, there's bragging rights on the line. And I'm not that we're looking at who's going to be the best, and that's our number one priority, but there's bragging rights tonight. And, we can even back up with them on the points side of things. But at the end of the day, those are like that's the calluses that we talk about getting, and the scars that you get over the course of the season, so that when you run into the playoffs, you've been through this a few times. And I think that there's been some really big tests for us running into these kind of games, and to go against a heavyweight team like that and to come out with the 2 points, that's real good growth for us, and it's real good things that, like I said before, that we're trying to build towards game 83 and 83 on.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
There he goes, Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arneil tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show, joining the assembled media from the Matt Frost Media Center after the Jets defeat the Washington Capitals by that 3-2 margin. You can tell even from a coach's perspective that this is a fun game to be a part of behind the bench. This was a heavyweight tilt. I know it's cliche. This one was a heavyweight tilt. The game against Dallas a couple Fridays ago was a heavyweight tilt. Coaches, players, they want to get up for games like that. And so you can see that the Jets head coach, Scott Arneil, was very happy with his team's performance, with their response, especially after both the disappointment of Sunday against the Sabres, which is now flushed and forgotten, and also the impact. You weren't, psychologically, what was the impact going to be about losing Gabe Vilardi for the next undetermined amount of time? And the Jets really stepped up, I thought, in response and played a very hard game. This was a physical battle. This was a don't give an inch battle. And they certainly looked the Washington Capitals right in the eye. And they said, we're down 2 players now, 2 regulars in Vilardi and Pionk, but we're still better than the sum of our parts. We're still going to do something pretty good. And that's what Scott Arneil saw from his team tonight, I thought.
Absolutely, and it wasn't a perfect game, obviously. The Jets did not have a good second period. If you want to go to natural stat trick, I'm not going to list all of the stats, but I mean the possession was heavily tilted in the Capitals' favor, and I really liked the penalty kill tonight. They obviously got the 2 early penalty kills, and it looked like they weren't going to get a power play, obviously, and they did. They got one there, but considering the new look lines and the type of game it was, I think you have to be happy with the end result, right? Like, obviously, Alexei Protas hits the post there in overtime, and the Capitals had the puck in the Jet zone for a minute, but then Dylan Samberg, who obviously is getting a lot of attention, rightly so, for the season he's having, identifies that it's a bad change by the Capitals, right? and fires it up to Nikolai Ehlers, and he does the rest. And obviously has one of the better celebrations of the year, right? So yeah, it was an absolutely fun game. Wish I was there, Drew. A little bit of jealous of you that I wasn't able.
You'll be there on Friday for the New Jersey game.
I'll be there on Friday, yeah, but it's not going to be the same thing. But a huge game, a huge couple points, mainly because, like you said, Dallas is breathing down their necks, and they still have an opportunity to pick up a couple points. Obviously, the games in hand will not be a factor after Wednesday and Thursday, but still an important 2 points, not only to show that the Jets, for the time being at least, look like the superior team over the Capitals, not points-wise, but just based on the fact they've beaten the Capitals twice this year. But I liked how they came through. Obviously the first goal, we'll get into that in the Play Now game recap. It was a 3-on-2. You don't love that. But for the most part, I thought it was a pretty solid game. I liked the way they were battling in the third period, Dave. I thought that they really elevated their game after a pretty lackluster second period.
Well, as you yada over the best part. I mean, you went right to the overtime, but I thought it was a great game. I really did. I thought that the Jets played well. And you're right. You couldn't expect them to dominate. Both teams are too good to completely dominate the other. Jets fans will be a little excited that they might avoid the St. Louis Blues, though, because the Blues, who keep winning, I believe they've won now 8 in a row. With today's victory, have now tied
2019 all over again, guys.
No, Drew, I don't think the win count. I don't think the win's been factored yet. So I think they're actually 8 in a row for the St. Louis Blues. So the good news for the Jets is that they look like they may tie and overcome the Minnesota Wild, who did in fact lose tonight. So the Jets can avoid a red hot St. Louis team. Doesn't that sound familiar? 2019. But again, this Jets team is much different. And one player who I want to mention, because I thought he was excellent in tonight's hockey game, was Cole Perfetti. I thought he had a really good game. I thought he was really, again, nothing overly flashy, but I just thought when there were moments where he would previously given up the puck, I thought he held onto the puck and didn't panic. And for me, that was significant. And I like the way he played tonight's game. So again, there were a lot of guys that you want to focus on. Obviously, Mason Appleton, as he breaking his goalless, had gone, his drought, I think, was 12 games without a goal. So he finally gets one. That's significant. But I like the way Perfetti played. I just thought there was a calmness to his game, and there was a physicality that we saw. Even like when he's taken on, he'll be forecheck. He'll be the first guy in 3-on-1 with the puck, 1-on-3, I should say. And he's not dumping it into the corner and getting off. He's keeping the puck. He's showing a patience that I just don't think we've seen. So the maturity in his game is evident to me from a game like tonight where there's a lot of pressure, and he looked like he was real good.
Yeah, there's no question about it. A game where previously, if it was a man's game, he might not necessarily be able to show up in that kind of game. Now it's evident, as we've talked about since he became Prickfetti a couple of months ago at this point in time, that a game like this is not one that he shies away from whatsoever. Let's get into the nitty-gritty details of tonight's game. We go goal by goal here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. It's called the Play Now Game Recap.
The Play Now Game Recap.
Big thanks to our friends at Play Now. You know them as the title sponsor of all of our programming here on Illegal Curve. Don't bet on illegal sites. Bet with Play Now instead. Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Big thanks to Play Now for their continued support. The Jets get the opening goal. I think this is the first time. Is this the first time in 4 games that they get the opening goal? 5 games, Dave's indicating to me. It's been a while, but they get the opening goal. Josh Morrissey, his 12th of the year, assist to Mark Scheifele and Dylan DeMello. Still waiting to see if it's actually Morrissey's goal. It's sort of hard to determine if it goes off of Alex Iafallo or if it goes off of Martin Feoveri, the defenseman for the Washington Capitals. But whatever it is, it's a goal for the Winnipeg Jets. And it starts, of course, like so many goals do, with a clean zone entry. Morrissey over to DeMello. DeMello gives it up to Scheifele, streaking through the middle. He comes in sort of 3-on-2 a little bit, finds the trailer in Morrissey. He lets the hammer go. Both Iafallo and Feoveri are causing traffic in front of Logan Thompson. It deflects off of presumably Feyaveri at this point, and it's 1-0 for the Winnipeg Jets, Ezzy.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't changed it. It looked like it could be Iafallo watching that live. And then even on the replay, it looked like it could be Iafallo, but it definitely goes off of Feyaveri, who actually I think is a pretty impressive defenseman. But you're right, Scheifele's zone entry creates and speed creates some separation, and the Capitals are backing off a little bit. And Morrissey comes in with just a nice blast, realizing that Iafallo's got some traffic in front of the net, and they've got the early first goal. So it's kind of a meat and potatoes type of goal, right? It's nothing too fancy, but it's exactly what you want in a game like this. You want to get on the board first.
Well, and it's a guy, Alex Iafallo, he obviously, gets the bump up. He gets elevated to play, in that role with Gabe Vilardi out of the lineup. And where do you find him? You find him exactly where you expect to find him, Dave. Right in front of the net, causing traffic, causing chaos, a hard net drive. Alex Iafallo's game is certainly a simple game, but it's effective, especially in a matchup like tonight, where it's all about, men in front of the net, bodies in front of the goaltender, take away their eyes, choose your cliche. But he fits in well with a game like this and with a playoff game sort of style.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that now for a while with respect to Alex Iafallo and the type of game he plays. And, that's one of the questions that Scott Arneil was asked, right, guys, was this idea of adding a little more bite and changing up the composition of the lines. And for the vast majority, obviously, with guys, had dealt with injury throughout this year on the first line, being Kyle Connor. So you had, the first line did get some adjustments, but for the most part, these guys have played together. So, you get Alex Iafallo, he is used to jumping up, and you're right, he adds that element that, with all due respect to Gabriel Vilardi, Mark Scheifele, and Kyle Connor, they don't have on the line. So he's someone who's going to go into those dirty areas, going to be the guy. I'm not to say that Vilardi wouldn't go to the dirty areas, but he gets to the front of the net, as does Vilardi, but a little more physicality with Iafallo. Obviously doesn't have quite the same level of hands, and pretty significant assist, I should say, for Mark Scheifele, guys, if you're keeping track of stats, because Mark Scheifele tied Blake Wheeler for the most points ever by a Jets 2.0 player. So Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler are currently tied, both trailing, of course, Thomas Steen and Dale Hawerchuk. But still impressive nonetheless. He's about 4 or 5 games. I think if he can pass Wheeler, he'll do it a little bit earlier than him. But still, Mark Scheifele, tied for the all-time points lead on the Jets 2.0.
And Dave, I just wanted to mention one thing too, which obviously good on you for pointing that out, that milestone. Connor McMichael had a partial breakaway, if you remember. It was kind of like a backhand. It wasn't the hardest backhand, but Hellebuyck made a big save. And to me, that was another thing that I noted, right? Like that was, the goal was whatever it was, 6.5 something minutes into the game, but that save came like 1 or 2 minutes before that. So I just wanted to get that in there, that Hellebuyck made a nice save on McMichael on the partial breakaway that led to that. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that the Jets obviously rewarded their goaltender for coming up with a big early save in the game.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Drew, but I mean, look, if you looked at this natural stat trick, I'm pretty sure 5-on-5 in the first period, the Jets didn't have any high danger chances despite scoring, and the Capitals had 3. So, I mean, you're right, Ezzy. There were some nice saves by Connor Hellebuyck, and the Jets, it was, like I said, it was a good game. Both teams had chances, but there weren't any of the high danger variety for the Jets in that opening period. Despite that, they still had a 1-0 lead.
It was a chess match in the first period, guys. Like that was the definition of both teams not giving the other team any open space or any, aside from the 3-on-2 that we're going to get into on the Mangiapane goal. There really wasn't a lot of room and a lot of like chances off the rush.
No, I thought the first game, the game in Washington, I thought was a lot more free flowing than this game. This game was very much to your point, as neither team wanted to blink, neither team wanted to make that initial error. I thought both teams were very much feeling each other out, but not feeling each other out in the boring sense of it. They were just sort of like two prize fighters throwing jabs just to try and sort of work their way into the match, and it certainly took a little bit of time to get going. I mean, the high danger chances in the entirety of the game were 5-4 in the favor of the Winnipeg Jets. So it was not this was not a pond hockey style game. This was far more.
It wasn't high event.
Style.
It was like if you're a fan of the old UFC, it was like watching like Georges St. Pierre. He wasn't a very exciting fighter to watch, but he was effective, right?
I have no idea. That's an analogy I have no clue about.
Well,
I'll
George
take your
St. Pierre
word for
was known for his defense, right? And that's obviously what the Jets have been known for, in addition to being one of the top offensive teams, even though there's only one team ahead of them. It's the Washington Capitals, right, guys?
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a low event first period, I would say. But again, they got the early goal, and it looked like they were going to go into the second period with the lead. But as we're going to get into, Andrew Mangiapane spoiled the party.
Yes, eat bread, score goals. That's Andrew. That's what he does, his 14th of the season. Assist to Jacob Chychrun. This comes just after he and Colin Miller leave the penalty box for their offsetting penalties. Colin Miller, the initial boarding penalty on Mangiapane, then Mangiapane got up and hit him with a quality cross-check, and you saw them beaking back and forth at each other in the penalty box. I don't think they were sharing each other's recipe for chocolate chip cookies. They were, I think, disputing what the one did to the other. In any event, the penalties end. Mangiapane jumps out of the box. The Jets have a little bit of I think about two guys go down in the offensive zone, which allows the Capitals to transition the puck up the ice. And Chychrun is able to find Mangiapane, and his shot, I don't know that it was a knuckleball, but it was sort of it wasn't a crisp shot, Dave. It was a bit of it was
kind of like
almost.
I was going to say like a changeup almost.
Yeah, maybe a changeup. It was sort of a weird shot, but obviously effective enough that he beats Connor Hellebuyck with it. This with 40 seconds to go in the first period, and it's 1-1 after 20 minutes.
Yeah, and that one's got to hurt because you played a pretty effective first period. You haven't given up a goal. You think you're about to get into the intermission with that lead. The crowd's into it. People are buzzing, and then you give up a late goal. Again, even though we've seen it a little bit more of late, something we haven't seen from this Jets team throughout the course of this season. So, yeah, and that goal burns Colin Miller because of the way they were having that conversation. And we saw on the broadcast, Tom Wilson was having some fun. They were all, going. And look, that's what you want. I mean, remember, this isn't the Southeast Division where these teams never play each other or played each other often, and they had some animus. These teams face each other twice a year. The game in Washington was a hell of a good hockey game. I mean, I don't think there was any carryover, even despite Josh Morrissey's little tap in after his overtime winner and then running to the room. But the fact of the matter is that for me, this was like one of those games where you're like, okay, both teams are going to want to win. Both teams are going to play well. You'd think it'd be a pretty good game. Again, I wasn't anticipating the level of that sort of disruption between Mangiapane and Miller. I was a little surprised, but regardless, yeah, you're right. You don't like the breakdown from the Jets because it's late in the period. They've got the puck in the opponent's end, and yet you allow them to go in on that 3-on-2. And you're right, it is a bit of a knuckle puck. Looks like it caught Hellebuyck a little bit on it by surprise, but I mean, Mangiapane's a pretty good player, right? As he's got 25 goals, something like that. Maybe not that many,
14,
but he's got
14 on the year.
Oh, fine, he's got 14 goals, but he's a good. He's a pretty good scorer. I mean, that's a pretty
three or four years ago, Dave, he had 30, 34, 35 goals
with Calgary
for the Calgary Flames. So, I mean, you score 34, 35 goals in the NHL. You're a pretty good goal scorer, right? So your point is well taken. And just wanted to mention one thing. Prior to that, the Jets had a lot of pressure. Scheifele and Connor were out there 4-on-4. There was a lot of pressure in the Capitals zone. And Drew mentioned this. What happened was Sandberg got up in the play. It was Schenn took the shot. Sandberg falls. Connor also kind of spilled. That's what created the 3-on-2. And then what you had, Dave, was Mangiapane went right onto the ice, but Miller went off, and then I believe it was Niederreiter who came on, right? So there was a lot of like moving parts on that goal, but it was give and go between Chychrun and Mangiapane. And I think, if anything, Mangiapane, instead of one-timing it, kind of just stopped for like that little second.
Yeah.
And then didn't get the whole thing. But you're absolutely right, Drew. It was a bit of a weird, whatever you want to call it, knuckler, screwball, change up, whatever we want to call it. But at the time, I mean, that's a big goal for Washington because, like Dave said, it wasn't the most high event first period, but the Jets were still going to be happy to go into that first intermission with a 1-0 lead. But there's a reason why the Capitals are the first place team in the league right now, guys. Like they've got a lot of dangerous weapons out there, Mangiapane included.
Well, and sorry, Drew, I just
Dave.
put this up on the chat, but Mangiapane from courtesy of Beer League, Mangiapane has 5 goals, 5 assists in his last 6 games against the Winnipeg Jets. So not that goes to show you
he's
likes
a good
playing
player.
games.
Yeah.
No, he's a good player. And again, despite the fact that I was wrong, sorry, I was off by 10. I gave him a little more credit than he had. But ultimately, again, this Washington team, you see, I think that kind of illustrates how good this team is and how rounded they are, right, boys? That they can get scoring from so many different players, and we saw it. There's a lot of weapons on this team. They had a lot of different chances, but I mean, it's just another example of like you said, Drew. It wasn't the high event game that we saw in Washington, but it was still a very entertaining first period and game overall.
No question about it. The Jets run into some penalty trouble in the second period. Cole Perfetti with his tripping penalty in the offensive zone. And then Luke Shen, 3 minutes after the Jets kill off that one, gets what I'll describe as a weak unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Sorry, but what the hell is unsportsmanlike conduct? I mean, I'm sorry.
In that instance, that's a weak, unnecessary call.
As he call up scouting the refs, call up Josh from scouting the refs, and we need to get some sort of analysis. Because
why not just give Shen and Wilson each 2 minutes for roughing there?
Or let them play. Stay out of the way. You don't need to make that call at that point in time. That's interjecting yourself unnecessarily in the game from my perspective.
He must have said something. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, the officials tonight were Kendrick Nicholson and Garrett Rank,
but they were calling it fine before.
Did you say Kendrick Lamar? Drew?
No, Kendrick Nicholson.
Okay.
But the funny part is the Perfetti penalty was completely a penalty. I mean, he's going for the puck, but he catches the skate.
That was a penalty for sure. I mean, that Perfetti himself, you could see how frustrated he was. Sure. I mean, you can't do that.
Again, there's no question. But to me, I'm just sitting there going, what am I watching here? Like, this is insane. Like, did I miss something? It wasn't evident. And again, it could have had an impact, but I agree with Ezzy. PK, important, and the Jets had a really effective PK against the Capitals.
Yeah. Ovechkin had 2 shots on net on that power play, but there was no rebounds and they were easily stopped by Hellebuyck.
Yeah, the Jets did a really nice job on that penalty kill, and then they get they take the lead with 12 seconds to go in the game in the second period. So they give up a late first period goal, but they take the lead late in the second period. It starts, Cole Perfetti picks up a loose puck in the Jet zone, carries it all the way through into the Capital zone, unaccosted whatsoever, leaves it for Niederreiter. Niederreiter goes cross ice to Mason Appleton, and I'm weighing my options. I'm saying which one of these is going to be the Seagram shot of the game. It's probably still going to be the Ehlers one, but this is a real nice shot by a guy who really needed a goal, who had been, who'd been struggling to get the puck in the net. We saw Nino Niederreiter get off the schneid on Sunday against Buffalo. Maybe this is what sort of gets Mason Appleton going a little bit as well. His 9th of the year, and it's a big one coming with 12 seconds to go in the period. Assist to Niederreiter, assist to Perfetti. And the Caps just really back off completely, and nobody takes Appleton at all. The defenseman who's closest to him is Jacob Chikrin, but they're so deep in the zone that it's a relatively easy pass for Nino Niederreiter to find Appleton. The defense are playing so far off. Nick Dowd is the forward who's back, and he sort of gets chasing after things a little bit. Just well done by the Jets to make the seam passes, and well done by Appleton to fire it past Logan Thompson to give the Jets the 2-1 lead, Ezzy.
Yeah, and Logan Thompson's coming right to left, and Appleton puts it top corner, which obviously is not it's a difficult shot for Logan Thompson to make. So good on Appleton. And like you said, one other thing too that I wanted to mention is this doesn't get I feel like sometimes I'm the only guy that talks about this, but Logan Thompson catches with his right hand. And he's left-handed is what I'm trying to say here. And Dave knows I kind of obsess over this a little bit, but there's very few goalies in the NHL that catch with the right hand.
There's very few left-handed goaltenders in the NHL.
Yeah, so that's stylistically, I always just like the look of it. Like think of like Grant Fuhrer, Tommy Barrasso. Those are the famous right catching goalies. Anyways, I always like to bring that up there because it's not mentioned a lot. I think Dan Robertson did mention on the broadcast, but you're used to that being blocker side, but it's actually glove side. But at the end of the day, it's a good zone entry from Cole Perfetti. It's a nice, sneaky, good pass from Nino Niederreiter, but just nice for Mason Appleton, right? Because we obviously do all these post-game shows, and it's been a while since he scored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just love to see that, because Appleton's a guy that obviously they depend on. I mean, they're going to have to figure these lines out going forward. I mean, we'll maybe get into it a little bit after the break, but I mean, Velarde's out week to week, and I don't necessarily know, guys, that these are the lines that are going to be set in stone, because there were times in this game where the Jets were struggling a little bit to create offense. Now, granted, Washington's a good team, but you love to see Appleton get a goal on that new line. I mean, it's new line in quotations, because obviously Lowry is not an unfamiliar line mate, right, Dave? But just nice to see again. A long answer short, I guess. Just nice to see Mason Appleton getting a goal after going goalless for a long extended period of time.
And as I talked about, when we do the goal by goal recap brought to you by Play Now here, I love doing it, looking at the goal visualizer on NHL.com.
You love that goal visualizer, Drew.
Well, you can see on the goal visualizer just how bad of a line change Washington
it wasn't
in the midst of here. I mean, it's really it's a 5-on-4, because the last I guess it's Connor McMichael is so far behind the play, he doesn't even cross center before the puck is in the net. It's a bad line change by the Washington Capitals, and to the Jets' credit, they take advantage of it, Dave, to tie it up, to give the Jets the 2-1 lead.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the presence of mind that you needed to see from the Winnipeg Jets. They recognize, hey, these guys are not moving very quickly. And like, as he said, I mean, you needed Mason Appleton to get that goal, to get a little confidence. And the other thing you also wanted to see from the Jets is strike against the team in the last minute. That to me is also, you bring that momentum into the third. I thought the Jets were excellent to start the third period. I mean, obviously we know that what ended up happening, but that to me was nice to see that you can now build. You're not sure you gave up a goal late in the first, but you've got one in the second to kind of answer back for that.
It's funny though, this happens with 12 seconds to go. Then the Jets take a very sloppy icing penalty before the second period is out, and so there's an offensive zone or a defensive zone face-off for the Jets. So the Caps, are right. It's to the right of Connor Hellebuck, and my daughter looks over to me and says, "Oh, there's only 3 seconds left. There's no chance they're going to score in those 3 seconds." And the Capitals have a clean face-off win back to Ovechkin, and he gets a real nice shot away.
Yeah.
And if it's not for Connor Hellebuck making a kick save, it absolutely would have counted, and it would have tied the game up at 2 goals apiece. So I said to my daughter right after Hellebuck makes the save, I'm like, 3 seconds lasts a lot longer than you think sometimes, doesn't it? And she said, "Yes, Daddy." And
that's funny, Drew. Like, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a sneaky, dangerous scoring chance for Ovechkin. Because like you say, I mean, the Jets win the face-off, and then goes back into the corner. They maybe shoot it around the boards, and then the period's over. But Ovechkin, was it Dubois that won the faceoff? I forget who won the faceoff. Was it Dubois, Dave?
Dave's giving you the
it was Dubois. By the way, I thought Dubois was good, and we talk about the Dubois trade tree all the time, guys. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Alex Iafallo replaces another member of the Dubois trade tree in Gabriel Velarde, but just as an aside, you can say whatever you want about Pierre-Luc Dubois, but it's nice that he's finally found a home when he's succeeding, right? Like,
for now.
I mean, granted, for now. I mean, his tenure in Los Angeles obviously didn't go that long, but good for him for having success in Washington. At least, I wish him nothing but success.
Yeah, the crowd gave him some boos, but he touched the puck. He had the puck on his stick a whole bunch in the course of today's game. He was noticeable, I thought, for all the right reasons. So he certainly does seem to have, at least for this year, found a home in Washington. Third period, again, very similar to how I think the first 2 periods were played. Tight checking. The Jets had a couple of their own power play opportunities, or the one with Taylor Radish taking the interference penalty. The Jets come close, but they aren't really able to capitalize on it. And then, again, Alex Ovechkin, who I thought for the most part was relatively quiet in tonight's game. But as Scott Arneil himself said, he doesn't need a lot of time. He doesn't need a lot of space. And he gets the puck on his stick with exactly 4 minutes to go in tonight's contest. Assist to Alexei Protas and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. And he absolutely wires it past Connor Hellebuck. I mean, first of all, tons of people cheering for Alex Ovechkin in the crowd, tons of Capitals fans in the crowd tonight, but boy, it was on and off his stick in the blink of an eye. And, for people who like to see at least history get a little bit closer to being made, forget about the politics of it all for a second or two, if you don't mind. It was sort of neat to say, to be there when he gets that one goal closer to being the record holder. And I'm not a fan of his, for the record, but it was kind of cool to see it happen.
No, absolutely. I mean, how many more times are you going to see Alex Ovechkin play hockey in Winnipeg? Not that many more, right?
It's possibly a 7-game series come June.
Well, yeah, but
I'm joking.
I mean, he's 39 years old,
Yeah,
right? I mean, there's only a few more years left in his career. So, you and Aaron are always going to be able to say, like, we saw Alex Ovechkin score a goal, right before he broke Gretzky's goal record, or, one of the goals that he scored. I mean, he's a living legend, right? And we're going to keep the politics obviously out of it here. We're just appreciating what he's done as a hockey player, right? So, I mean, but yeah, the release guys, I mean, because this is a broken play, right? The Jets were having trouble.
Play. There's not a play here.
They just couldn't get the puck along the boards.
Yeah.
They couldn't get the puck out, and Protas made a nice little pass to Ovechkin, who had a lot of time and space. But, again, he doesn't one-time it. He stops it and uses the wrist shot. Yeah. And, like, we always talk, Dave, about Kyle Connor's release, and obviously Nick Ehlers has got a pretty good release, but Kyle Connor specifically, we've talked to Kevin Sawyer about it. We've talked to a lot of people about it over the years. It's so hard to stop that. It's like, it's coming. He's got a dangerous shot. But Hellebuck just seemed like he was like, okay, like, what am I supposed to do here? He's going left to right. And it's the greatest release in NHL history, right? And he does it again. So obviously it would have been nice if the Jets got the regulation win. But I think we all agree that this game deserved overtime.
Certainly, and overtime. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
The only thing I'm going to add to the analysis is just how impressive it is that he is able to get away. You have to know when he is on the ice, where he is. Dylan DeMello appears to know where he is. Yeah. And then you just, again, that credit to Ovechkin, because that ability, and again, good goal scorers have that ability to get away and create some time and space for themselves. And for Ovechkin, who was shoulder to shoulder with Dylan DeMello, suddenly to find himself with that sort of gap, you knew DeMello was like, oh boy. And all
it takes is like one or two steps, right, Dave?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. And again, smart players are able to do it, and goal scorers are able to do that. And we've seen it, from this guy 889 times. It's impressive. So that be on the play, as he's in Drew, you guys are right. It was a broken play. The Jets should have been able to clear that puck. But ultimately, that's an impressive play by Ovechkin to create that space for himself.
And then, so the game gets to overtime. The Jets have clinched the playoff spot by virtue of earning the 1 point in overtime. The Washington Capitals really control the first. I mean, the Jets score at the 128 mark. I would say the Capitals controlled the first 124 of the overtime period. They had the puck on their stick. They had the puck in the Jets zone. They come as close as Alexei Protas hitting the goalpost. And then Dylan Samberg gathers up a loose puck and perfect bank pass, just an absolute perfect bank pass onto the stick of Nikolai Ehlers, who's in stride, and it is the game-winning goal. It's also the Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their continued support. Seagram's 83 is Manitoba's favorite Canadian whiskey. Big thanks to them. Drink responsibly, of course, first and foremost as well. Beautiful pass by Dylan Samberg. A great shot by Nikolai Ehlers. At didn't matter that the Capitals had 4 skaters on the ice. The Jets scored even though the Capitals had too many guys on the ice. It's funny. I was at the game, and I saw the ref had his hand up, and he's, there's a delayed penalty while Ehlers is striding in. And I'm like, what's the delayed penalty for? I didn't see any of the infraction. There was so much going on. I didn't realize that the Capitals actually had 4 skaters on the ice. They had too many men on the ice in this play. But Nikolai Ehlers, again, he goes glove side on Logan Thompson. Just an absolute bullet of a shot. Nikolai Ehlers in flight, in stride. Very few people in this league can catch up to him. But what a pass by Dylan Samberg from behind his own net, banking it perfectly. Must have been a pool player in his day, and he finds Ehlers, and Ehlers makes no mistake to give the Jets the 4-3 victory, Ezzy.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Eric Horlifson. That's Eric with a K, a national 9-ball champion, because you're making that pool reference, right?
Yes.
Drew.
And
So
every time I do, you give Eric a shout out.
yeah, you got to give him a shout out. If you're in Toronto, maybe go to Eric Horlifson for some pool lessons. But yeah, I mean, it's an elite pass by Dylan Samberg, guys. And obviously, we mentioned Alexei Protas hits the post, had a nice rush for Washington, and Ehlers is out there for the full minute and a half of overtime, right? So the fact that he's able to have that speed, even late in the game, and a minute, or maybe not a minute, was it a minute and a half? Yeah, it was about a minute and a half into overtime. Yeah, but it's a horrible line change. And just a beautiful shot by Ehlers. I mean, I can't really do this justice, guys. I mean, the celebration really says it all, right, Dave?
That's your cue to unmute, Dave.
I know, I'm aware. I was just trying to get some things. I was trying to get some.
Dave M is running a website. Okay, there's a lot of things. He's running the social media. He's running illegalcurve.com. Behind the scenes, Dave M has a lot going on there.
Well,
how many keyboards do you have there, Dave, in front of you?
just the one. But I will say that
he's got 6 keyboards, 1 computer. It's very bizarre. The keyboards are just hooked up to nothing.
It's true. They're all just plugged into me. But anyways, the key to, I mean, first of all, I will say though, like that celebration was amazing. Colby Spence, our crack photographer / videographer, because he brings us the video after the games from Scott Arneil. But he captured it perfectly. Just if you haven't seen it, go check it out on our Illegal Curve Instagram. Beautiful shot. But you're right, boys. The Dylan Samberg pass is such a heads-up play by him. And it's the interesting thing, and that's what I was calculating when I was muting myself, was that he matched his points total from last season, and he did so in 29 fewer games. And the other thing I was checking was Dylan Samberg, right? That's his 18th point of the year. Not bad. Again, matches his career high in game 49 for him. Brendan Dillon, who we'll see on Friday night with the New Jersey Devils, 2 goals, 13 assists, 50 points with those New Jersey Devils. So Brendan Dillon and Dylan Samberg more than making up for the missing offense, and having a heck of a year for the Winnipeg Jets.
Is Sheldon Keefe going to chill out a little bit on Johnny Kovacevic?
Wow,
that was a stupid thing to say. What a dumb thing to say, huh?
I didn't like that.
I thought it was dumb also. It's just like, I mean, yeah, that's for those of you who missed it. After the Devils lost on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah.
One of the reporters said to Devils head coach Sheldon Keefe that Johnny Kovacevic says that the Devils need to do X better or Y better, whatever it was, something innocuous, pretty generic, post-game quote from player. Sheldon Keefe interrupts the reporter asking the question and just says, Kovacevic needs to play better. And then just like mic drops and walks out. It's just like weird sort of vibe, obviously going on in New Jersey. And
they just signed him to a 5-year deal, right? Or 4-year deal, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was unfair to Johnny Kovacevic. That's all.
Well, what's happened in New Jersey is the injury bug has obviously ruined their season. They're going to be a playoff team still. Although I guess it's not a foregone conclusion because some of the East is pretty bad. The New Jersey is going to be a playoff team, but with all the injuries that they've suffered, they're going to be one and done. They're going to be out pretty quickly. And so I think it's sort of beginning to wear on everybody in New Jersey. And we remember what the Jets did to the New Jersey Devils on the trade deadline Friday. And then I guess it's now been 2 weeks? Is that it? It's only been 2 weeks since then. The rematch will be this coming Friday.
Yeah, no Jack Hughes, no Dougie Hamilton. That's your best defenseman and your most dangerous offensive weapon, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm with you. I'm a Devils fan, obviously tried and true, but it's going to be tough for them to go deep in the playoffs this year. That's for sure. Without those 2 guys.
And that'll be Friday's game, the next time the Winnipeg Jets are in action. So we'll go to break, and when we come back, we'll touch on that a little bit more on tonight's contest. Before we head to break, your responsibility while we play the commercials is to like the show, smash the like button. If you're not already doing so, there's over 540 of you watching us live right now. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And this one's a good one too. Turn your notifications on. That way, your phone, your tablet, your device, your computer, your smart TV, whatever it might be, every time we go live with an Illegal Curve broadcast, you'll get a little notification. Then that's your cue to jump in and watch us. So plenty to come. That's your responsibility. We'll go to break. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, the Illegal Curve postgame show. It's presented by Play Now. It rolls on this Tuesday night.
We want to thank you Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
20 minutes before 11 o'clock. Sorry, I was sending you two guys a text message, so I got a little bit delayed in pressing the come back live on the Illegal Curve post-game show button here as we talk about the Winnipeg.
No, Drew, I won't make out with you.
Oh, Ezzy, you know that you will. Jets victorious over the Washington Capitals.
No laugh from Dave M there.
3-2. Dave M's on mute. I think he thought my comment was funnier than anything else. 3-2, the Jets victorious over the Washington Capitals tonight. A really entertaining contest, as we've touched on here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Here's what Mason Appleton had to say about playing with Nikolai Ehlers. Quote, "I love playing with Nicky because he's one of the most dynamic guys in this league." Nikolai Ehlers about playing with Mason Appleton. Quote, "He's a guy that goes out there and works his ass off every single time he goes out on the ice." So we saw new look Winnipeg Jets lines. I sort of agree with, I think it was you, Ezzy, who said that you're not sure how long these lines are going to last together, that they're probably not written in stone, and I would agree with you there. But at least for tonight, they seem to work well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Cole Perfetti back with Adam Lowry and Nikolai Ehlers at some point relatively soon, especially when the Jets need some offense, because we know that that trio worked well together earlier this year in some brief time. And we know that lately, Perfetti, Nemesnikov, and Ehlers, they've been playing well together as well. But right now, given where the Jets are, given the time of the year, it's sort of understandable that Scott Arneil might be trying out some new things.
Yeah, and I'm sure, this is more of a segment for the Saturday morning show, but I'm sure we're going to be, after the Devils game, we're going to be talking about this a lot, regardless of the outcome of that game, we're going to be talking about the forward lines, because you wonder if Cole Perfetti sees some time up with Scheifele and Connor, right? Like there's options here, guys. And Scott Arneil Dave was there obviously earlier today, but Scott Arneil touched on this, right? Like these are not lines that are he even mentioned this, that he has some time to experiment with these lines with Gabe Vilardi out of the lineup, right? So it was a strong game from Cole Perfetti. He's really he's just taken off. I mean, it's really been a tale of two seasons for Cole Perfetti. Like the first half, or the first 50 games or whatever you want to call it, and then the last 20 to 25 games have been completely different. It's been really impressive to watch. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, the obvious switch is that you flip flop Ehlers and Niederreiter, and then you've got the lines that the second and third lines that you've had all year, right? So I really think, guys, that the forward lines are going to be in flux. Like I really see that as long as Vilardi's out, I think you're going to see whatever works, right? And you could see these lines stick together for the Devils game, Dave. But if they don't work, and Arneil said this to Paul Edmonds before the game, right? Like he can make in-game adjustments and switch these lines, which is a good thing, right? Like when you have guys like Niederreiter and Perfetti and Iafallo, they can go from basically the first line all the way down to the fourth line, right? So I think, you like what you see from Appleton breaking his goalless drought, and you just like that Perfetti continues his strong play from basically as soon as he called himself Prickfetti.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is that a lot of those guys are breaking their streaks, right? I mean, you've got Niederreiter finally feeling good about his game. I think what it points to, for me at least, is the depth of this Jets team. That is what we're seeing. We're seeing a team that is being able to kind of overcome the limitations. Okay, you lost Gabriel Vilardi. That's a huge loss, right? Week to week, he's, I'm not going to say he's done for the regular season 100%, but we'll see where that comes out maybe as they get further assessments. But the reality is that you've got a team that, okay, you lose a top line right winger, we can plug someone else in, and then we'll get another guy to jump up. And this team doesn't miss a beat. This was a tough game. This was a really challenging game against this Washington Capitals team. And this is a Washington Capitals team that came into today's game having won 4 in a row and 9-1-0 in their last 10 games. They were feeling good about themselves. They've been playing really good hockey. And as the penalty kill, not to be minimized, I think the having a strong penalty kill against the Capitals was huge, because we've been talking about the Jets penalty kill and the importance of it. So to me, for the Jets to come out with a victory on this game, again, given the limitations, Neil O'Neill, Pionk, no Gabriel Vilardi. And look, it's not to say that other teams aren't dealing with injuries. They are. But as Drew mentioned, when he kind of hastily joined us at the beginning of the show, the fact of the matter is you've got a Jets team that is able to add points to the standings bank, which leaves the Dallas Stars behind them. Again, Dallas is playing well, but you needed to keep adding points. Jets did that tonight, and that was significant.
I see that somebody's saying we're shaking things up among the different hosts and the different broadcasts, and they mentioned Kenny Weeb. Happy 50th birthday to Kenny Weeb today. Big day for Kenny.
Did you text him though, boys? Because I texted him.
No, I did text him. I actually ran into him before the game started. As I was entering the arena, he was walking around to the media entrance. So we stopped and we did a stop and chat. But I didn't realize at that point in time it was his birthday. So I said I had to send him a text afterwards and said, Kenny, I didn't know it was your birthday. My apologies. And so I did wish him a happy birthday. So he was gracious enough to overlook my initial faux pas and accepted my well wishes.
I just hope I look that good for 50, because Kenny looks very good for 50. In good shape, handsome. He's a handsome man.
There you go. Something you can strive for over your next 8 or so years, Ezzy, to try and look that way soon enough. Hell of a hockey game tonight. Dave, do you want to touch on the Moose? I know the Moose were in action tonight. No, we're saying no to the Moose.
Didn't much a second, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Not to say that the Moose are done. They're done. But the fact of the matter is, Drew, we didn't know if you were going to be doing this post-game show.
Yeah.
Which meant I had to be fully devoted to watching the Jets game. Sometimes I'm able to do dual duty, but that was not the case this evening. I will go back and review the Moose game. But for right now, all I can tell you is the stick a fork in them, folks, because they were done before. But if they could
put on your antlers, it's time for the Minute Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
We're done.
Well, Dave, if you're going to talk about them, I'm going to hit the bumper, man.
Fair enough. But the fact of the matter is that if the Jets would have, if the Moose would have won tonight, their chances were beyond thin. But they do have 2 games this weekend against Rockford. They could have at least made it a little more interesting. A loss against Milwaukee. I think it was a 4-1 final. So, like I said, I'll try and get as much of an assessment as I can for folks. and give you the updates that you need. But as of right now, that is the best I can give you, is that the final was 4-1 and the Moose are cooked.
Quick look at the out-of-town scoreboard. The Calgary Flames, they are chasing the St. Louis Blues. They had 3 games in hand now on the Blues after tonight's result. The Flames did win in overtime against the Seattle Kraken. That's a huge victory for the Flames. They now leapfrog the Vancouver Canucks, and they still have a game in hand on the Canucks. The Flames are 4 points behind the St. Louis Blues, 4 points behind the Blues with 3 games in hand. So the Blues have been on this incredible heater, but look out for the Calgary Flames. They've won 4 games in a row as well. So it really does look like it's coming down to the Flames and the Blues. The Wild are struggling, and they might run themselves into some trouble soon enough as well. But right now, it does look like it's going to be between the Flames and the Blues for the final Western Conference playoff spot. Vancouver and their middling season continues, and I don't know that they're going to be able to overcome that. But time will tell. The Flames will be in action next on Thursday against the Dallas Stars. Speaking of Dallas, they have the Edmonton Oilers tomorrow night, in a game that should certainly draw some eyeballs of those of us here in Winnipeg, keeping an eye on everything.
By the way, sign me up for a Jets Wild first round matchup. I like that matchup for the Jets. That could be over very quickly.
Well, the Wild are getting healthy, though. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson.
Still, I like that matchup for the Jets.
Well,
I would rather play the Wild at this point than the Blues. The Blues have been playing playoff hockey for the last 2 months.
And I think you eventually run out of steam. I would think
just like they did in 2019, right, Drew?
Well, they didn't do that. That's true. They didn't do that then. But,
I'm bugging you.
I know you are. I don't know.
I think the Jets beat either of those teams in a 7-game series, to be honest with you.
I would agree with that. That is an assessment I would agree with. But time will tell on that front. We'll keep an eye on the out-of-town scoreboard. And we'll next join you on Friday night for the Illegal Curve post-game show following the Jets and the New Jersey Devils. So again, post-game show Friday night, right around 9:40, 9:45 Central Time. And then again, the Illegal Curve hockey show tomorrow on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. So we'll take a couple days off. The Jets are off tomorrow, so there will be no media availability tomorrow, which means you can check out illegalcurve.com for a lot of your post-game coverage. And if you missed any of this show, the replay of this show, of course, will be available in the podcast edition as well. But the Jets do pull off the victory. They are playoff bound. Not that that was a surprise, but it's now official. An X next to their name, the second team in the NHL to clinch a playoff spot this season. They beat the Washington Capitals 3-2 in overtime. A hell of an entertaining game. Sends the hometown crowd home happy. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. That's, of course, our friends at Play Now. They're the title sponsor of this show. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, and City Place support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. We'll be back on Friday night. In the meantime, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, turn your notifications on, and tell your friends and family that the best place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings, is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll see you on Friday, right around 9:40 p.m. Until then, we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.